They thought she was just a gate guard, just a woman with a clipboard, stationed at the edge of Naval Air Station Travis under the sun, wearing a Standardissue polo shirt and khakis, standing to still to be respected and to calm to be feared. But when Lieutenant Bradley Cole pulled up in his spotless blue uniform with mirrored sunglasses and a smirk that could peel paint off steel, he didn't see a superior officer. He saw DeLaso when she raised her hand and asked for his ID and orders. He barked at ease. "Missy, I'm not here to flirt." Loud enough for the junior enlisted in the truck behind him to snicker. Loud enough to carry to the side where a group of contractors paused, and she said nothing at first. Just gestured again, palm flat, eyes level. No emotion on her face as he rolled his eyes, waved his badge with exaggerated flair, and muttered, "Security theater's getting cute these days," and she didn't flinch, didn't blink. Just scanned the badge, looked down at her tablet, and said, "This isn't your entry point, sir. You've been flagged for secondary," and he laughed. Stepping out of his vehicle like a prom king on a parade float, sauntered right up to her, looked her dead in the eye and said, "Do you know who I am?" And before she could answer, his hand was already halfway to snatching the tablet from her grip. And that's when two words landed behind him like an airstrike. "Stand down." From a voice graveled by sandstorms and command. And Cole turned to see three men walking toward them. Not contractors, not enlisted, but SEALs. Tan, scarred with that slow, unhurried walk of men who'd killed before breakfast and were deciding whether to do it again. One of them nodded toward the guard and said, "That's Major Rain, sir." And the sir wasn't respect. It was warning. The kind you say right before bones break. And Cole's smile evaporated like fuel on a runway. Because even he knew that tone, and still, something in his pride made him scoff. "She's not even in uniform." And the youngest SEAL, a man with one ear half melted from an IED, stepped forward and said, "Doesn't need one. She earned hers in Fallujah." And that's when the base went quiet. The checkpoint still active, but the noise pulled back like a tide waiting to drown someone stupid. And Cole looked again, really looked, and saw the faint scar under her left eye. The silver clasp around her wrist that wasn't jewelry, but a medic's band worn by choice. The gleam of something not quite civilian and not quite military. And suddenly the clipboard looked like a sword. And her silence, a battlefield she'd said nothing. Still hadn't said a single word in her own defense. And yet men who dropped from helicopters into fire obeyed her without hesitation, saluted her without prompting, and Cole's voice cracked as he said, "My mistake, Major." But she didn't reply, just tapped her screen, handed his ID back with a simple, "You're clear. Next time, report properly." And that should have been the end. But news spreads like napalm on a windy day, and by noon the incident was being whispered across the mess hall, relayed in barracks, echoed in the command wing, where a colonel shook his head and muttered, "Still treating women like they're invisible until the medals show." And by evening, her file was pulled, not for disciplinary action, but because someone upstairs realized she was never supposed to be at that checkpoint, that she'd requested that post herself, after turning down a PR desk job in Washington, saying, "If I have to earn respect again, I'll do it where the boots hit the ground." And this wasn't the first time either. Years ago, in a market outside Kabul, she'd taken a round through the thigh and still dragged to injured Marines to cover using a high jab and a belt as a tourniquet. And when command tried to give her a ceremony, she declined, opting instead for a transfer to a forward surgical team in a zone so hot even satellites blinked. Her record wasn't just impressive, it was classified in places, scrubbed in others. And the reason most didn't recognize her was because she had refused to be in the spotlight, to be used as a token, as a poster girl in a glass box for politicians to point at and pretend the military had changed. Because she knew better. She'd buried friends who were mocked in the mess hall and ignored in the field. And she swore she'd never be part of a system that rewarded performative gestures over real respect. So she came to Travis, low-key, boots on ground, and asked for the one post that forced every man to look at her, to either salute or stare. And she met every pair of eyes the same way, with quiet strength and unshakable calm. But Kolkol hadn't just looked past her, he tried to erase her. And that mistake was now a whisper stitched into the very fabric of the base days later. When the SEALs returned from an op, they brought her a patch, a golden trident with the phrase, "We know who you are," sewn in. And the base commander, a grizzled man who'd once served with her in Ramadi but hadn't seen her in years, came to the checkpoint himself, saluted, and simply said, "Welcome back, Major Rain." And the next morning, she was gone from the checkpoint, reassigned to internal security review with full clearance. And a new guard stood in her place, a young woman, barely 22, eyes alert, stance firm, and wearing the same band around her wristband. When someone asked her if she was scared of being disrespected, she said, "Not while she's watching," because now every woman on base had seen what respect looked like. Not demanded but commanded by presence, by history, by deeds. And Cole, he filed for reassignment within a week, citing hostile dynamics and leadership friction. But no one saluted him when he left, not even the guards. And the last thing he saw as he drove through the gate was Major Rain's old clipboard, framed in the admin building with a plaque that read, "Respect isn't given, it's recognized." And behind that desk sat another woman, posture perfect, boots polished, and a single photo on her wall, a woman in the dust of Iraq, carrying two men on her back while fire lit the sky behind her, face bloodied, eyes focused. And the caption didn't name her rank or medals. It just said, she didn't need to yell. She just stood there,